and share my screen. Hello. So just tell me, can you see my screen properly? Hello. Can you see my screen? Hello. Vaibhav. Vaibhav Katkar. Okay. Okay. Now, what we are trying to do here is just brush up session, right? It is just a brush up session on the TypeScript, right? We have started the TypeScript and just basic. We have understood what do you mean by variables, what do you mean by functions, what do you mean by, or how to write the functions, how to call the functions, and what are different types that we have seen. So we have a little bit discussed about TypeScript, right? Not completely. And then we have discussed about the classes and the objects, and we have discussed about what? Classes and the objects. Now if you see, what do you mean by class? We have discussed. So class is that entity which is having state and the behavior. What's that? State and the behavior. What do you mean by state? This is called as state. What do you mean by behavior? This is called as behavior, right? We have seen this thing. Means behavior is nothing but the functions or the methods, and what you can say, these class parameters are called as state, right? And the behavior operates on the state. That's what we have seen about the classes and the object. Then we have created one class called as chip, is a parent class. Then ESP chip is extending to the chip, and Arduino is extending to the chip, right? Is a relationship or the inheritance. So we have seen, or we have discussed, what we can say, 4 principles of object orientation, and that is nothing but, can you repeat what are those? Inheritance, can you see? First, extends chip is inheritance, encapsulation, then abstraction, and the polymorphism. Remember that I am telling you in detail, but if you want to become the Angular developer, it is absolutely not necessary that you should know all these things and you should implement all these things, right? That is absolutely not necessary, but I am telling you all these things just because of your additional knowledge, right? And if you want to write some structural or architecturally well codes, it's always good to have object oriented principles in the mind, right? So these are 4 are the object oriented principles: inheritance, encapsulation, abstraction, and the polymorphism. These 4 are, what you can say, basic principles of your object oriented principles. What do you mean by encapsulation? For that we have created this object. So chip is equals to new chip. Real memory footprint is nothing but the object. Means new is going to allocate memory dynamically, and this is something called as constructor. This is something called as what? Constructor. So the function which is getting invoked at the time of object creation, the function which is getting invoked at the time of object creation is nothing but what? Constructor. And this together is called as new plus constructor is called as what? Object. And whenever you do new plus constructor, it creates the capsule of your properties and the data. It creates the capsule of your properties and the data, and that's why it becomes encapsulation. So a complete usable object inside the memory is nothing but your, what you can say, this object. So if someone asks you this is object or this is object, remember that chip is a variable which holds the object reference. So if some of you are from the Java development background, you might be knowing we call it as ORV. What is that? ORV, object reference variable. We call it as what? Object reference variable. So chip is object reference variable. Okay, so we have discussed this thing, little bit about encapsulation. Then abstraction. If you see, this member is private. If you see, this member is private and can only be accessed by means of function. See, Wi-Fi COM. If you see Wi-Fi COM here, Wi-Fi communication is manipulating these two registers. Sorry, these registers property, or we call it as the state. In the object oriented terms, you call it as state, and the functions are called as behavior. If you see, this is the behavior, this is the state. N number of state would be there. So if you have a car class, then how many states would be having? That depends on the business logic or business requirement. Your customer is saying something, it completely depends on that thing, that what car class would be containing, how many behaviors it would be having, how many states it would be having. That is completely dependent on your business requirement. Remember that is completely dependent on the business requirement. Let me see, sound settings are correct. Yeah, it is correct. Now this is called as abstraction, means hiding unwanted things or hiding the secured things and allowing access to the secured thing by means of public behaviors. You're hiding data by means of access modifiers. Private and public are two access modifiers, one more is there protected, but in presently you don't need to know that thing. Private and the public are the two access modifiers we need to have. Okay, so public means what? Can be accessed like this. Now if you see, ESP chip is a class and ESP chip is having private member called as registers. So here you can go chip dot, can you see register is not accessible because register is what? Private. If you go here, line number 15, register is private and that cannot be accessed inside this thing. And if you want to access, you need to write a respective public function which can operate on the registers or which can change the current value of the data. So you have called chip dot Wi-Fi COM, right? And you can pass some data like this. Okay, so this is called as, what you can say, abstraction, hiding unwanted things. So a typical example, when we learn the object oriented principles, people give us a typical example that consider that you have a fan and there is a button, right? You just turn on and off the button, but you don't know internal circuits of that particular button, how exactly that thing is working, that you don't need to know. That is called as abstraction. So for operation, for starting and stopping the fan, they have given one button, right? You just need to start and stop the fan by means of switching on and off that button, right? That's the only thing you need to do, but how internally it works you don't need to worry about. That's what the abstraction is. Then polymorphism, if you see, multiple forms is nothing but what? Polymorphism. So I'm revising the object oriented principles, right? But means if you don't know object oriented principles, still you can develop the Angular apps, but it is very good to have that knowledge for creating the nice architectures. Okay, so if you see, type is a boolean is equals to true, and type is, if you see this question mark and the colon and the boolean, which means that I am going to accept the undefined, right? And here you are saying default parameter. If you call the Wi-Fi COM, can you see Wi-Fi COM, you haven't passed it anything, automatically type would be considered as true. Well, if you pass that true, the existing value of typ is going to be overridden, right? Means one function can be called in the multiple forms. That is the, what we can say, typical example of polymorphism, right? One and many more are there. Even we can define the polymorphism in a late winding, but let's not go in that detail right now. Just this much thing. Okay, so only this much part we have covered on the last session, and some variables, how to define variables and other things. Okay, now today's part is little bit important. Today's part is little bit what? Very much important. Now I'm going to create one folder, day 3 here, and under the day 3 you can have a file, and then you can have your, what you can say, interfaces, or interfaces, yeah. New file, say sound listener .ts. remember that extension of the file would be what? Sound. Just make a sound. Let me remove the listener. Sound.ts. okay. Now there is a class called as sound. There is a class called as sound, and I'm going to introduce one more term called as export. What I'm writing? Export class sound. And I have one more thing called as subsystem, sound subsystem, subsystem.ts. Now what I want to do, I want to see sound is in separate file. If you see, sound is in sound.ts, and in the subsystem I have one function, say function, or let's create a class subsystem. Class what? Subsystem. And there is a one function inside that. Here you can say amplify. And here can you see parameter I am passing as sound. snd is of type sound. Remember that, can you see it is giving me an error? Remember that whenever you write a function, and if you want to pass the parameter in the TypeScript, it is really good programming practice to write, what you can say, type after the variable name. If you are giving the function parameter, it is really nice to have. Okay, so amplify sound, and see it is saying that I don't know what is sound. So in that case, you need to tell where is exactly sound written. Sound, and here I can say sound from name of the file. You can say dot current slash. In the current directory you will find something called as sound.ts, and you will get sound over there. So export is used, what I'm saying, export is used for exporting the class or the variable or the function. You can export absolutely anything. Export, you can say export let high is equals to 10. That is also possible, right? Instead of let, you can use const for now. You can export function hello, like this. See, you can export the class, you can export the variable, you can export the function. All is well, right? That is working. Now if you see class subsystem, there is one method inside the class which is nothing but the amplify, and you need to pass object of sound over here, and you have written the sound object in separate file, and that's what you are importing right away here. Okay, now if you think that this subsystem class can be imported in another file, you can attach export to this also, right? You can attach export to this also, right? And you can do further things. So you have created the class, then you have created the subsystem, export class subsystem, amplify is the method, right? Now in a sound class, I would like to have one more term called as interface. Interface, you can say sound listener. Sound listener. You can have something called as what? Sound listener. And inside that sound listener, you can say on sound would be one method. Remember that interfaces are the design needs, and it is returning void. What I'm saying, when you write interface, export interface sound listener. Hello? Yeah, everyone is there? Yes. Okay, so when you talk about object oriented principles, what I'm saying, when you talk about object oriented principles, let me draw it on the sketch pad. Let me draw it on the sketch pad, just a moment. It's getting loaded. I'm drawing on the sketch pad. Now see, here you have classes. Here you have classes. Sorry for about my drawing, but here you have classes. And what classes defines? Classes defines the combination of what you can say state and the behavior. Combination of what? State means your properties and the functions, behavior. It defines the state and the behavior. So class object defines state and behavior. So what is a state? State is nothing but your properties, and behavior is nothing but your functions. Right. Now consider that you have some class. Consider that you have some class, and that class is having some behavior. Right. Now what I want to do at the runtime, right? What I want to do, this class wants to get a behavior on a contract basis. Like I'll give you one suitable example. You have animal. You have animal, right? And animal is having these behavior, which is nothing but what you can say run. Animal can run. Then animal can walk. Then animal can eat. Then animal can eat, right? This is my animal class composing of this is my animal class, which is composing of run, walk, eat methods, and some behavior state would be there, like if you can say state like legs, tail, ears, eyes, something like that. Okay, run, walk, and the eat. Now what I want to do, I want to track this animal, and I want to get a location of the particular animal. So what you will do, see how you will create object of animal. Let an is equals to new animal. Let an is equals to new animal. So instead of that, let me create the class new file animal.ts, and here I can say export class animal, export class animal, and then you can say eat, run, walk. These are the functions I'm writing in the, these are the functions These are the functions I am writing inside what? Animal class. Eat, run, and the walk. Okay, eat, run, and the walk. These are the functions. And private, you can say legs is equals to 4. It's a beast, you can say. So private leg number is equals to what? 4. Now while running, we are going to move the legs. This dot legs or leg, you can say plus leg is equals to this dot leg plus 1, something like that. Arbitrary logic we are writing. Export class animal run this dot leg is equals to leg plus 1. Hello, something happened. Hello, I think someone has left the meeting. Okay, fine. So export class animal. Animal can eat, animal can run, animal can walk. Animal can eat, animal can run, animal can walk. So these are the behaviors, or you can say this is as state, and this is as behavior. Okay. Now animal can eat, that is okay. Animal can run, that is okay. Animal can walk, that is okay, because all the states are matching with these behaviors. All the states are matching with what? These behaviors. Now my requirement is that my animal needs to give you the GPS location. Animal needs to give you what? GPS location. So in that case you need to fit the GPS collar to particular animal, and then that animal will start giving you the GPS location. Animal internally can eat, or naturally, you can say, not internally. Animal naturally can eat, animal naturally can run, animal naturally can walk, but animal cannot give you the GPS location on its own. There is no mechanism is having with the animal for giving you the GPS location. That mechanism you need to mount externally. That mechanism you need to mount what? Externally. So what I can create, see, export interface, and you can say GPS listener. GPS what? Listener. And here there would be one method on location. On location. See, I am repeating myself. All these things are really not needed for the Angular. What I am saying, all these things, whatever I am telling you, are not really important for your Angular, but these are good for creating fantastic design. Vaibhav Katkar.
Hello sir.
Where is Parag? Parag.
Sir, the line governor.
Okay, fine. So just a moment, I'll be back in a moment. So let us start. Let's start again. If you see this thing, you have class animal. Animal can eat, animal can run, animal can walk naturally, right? Anyone can. Yes.
Is not visible.
Okay. Now can you see my screen? So animal can eat, animal can run, animal can walk naturally. But what I want to do, I want to get the location of GPS location of animal. In that case, animal is not capable of giving you its GPS location. For that, you need to put some third party hardware on the animal. That can be the collar or it can be on the legs, right? So such requirements in the software terms needs the interface, because they provide the behavior on demand. This is on location. Need of GPS listener is to get the location, right? Animal is not capable of getting the location, and animal will have a contract. Animal will have a contract with one hardware, that is GPS listener. Now see, you will see an error. Now you will see an error. There is a red color. It says that you are implementing with the interface. You are implementing with what? Interface. If you are implementing with the interface, you need to provide implementation of the method. Remember that there is no implementation to this method. This method is empty. So you can override that method on location and like this. Now if you see, error has been resolved. Now if you see this thing, likewise you can say animal can eat, animal can run, animal can walk. You can say now animal can give you the location. Animal can give you what? Location. But on location is not a natural behavior of the animal class. On location is the behavior which is contracted from the third party hardware called as GPS listener. This is the design need, right? And in Angular, your every component, right? In Angular, your every component has some lifecycle methods, and that lifecycle methods are coming from the interfaces. So remind this term, component is not capable of getting the lifecycle events, but the moment you implement the listeners, component will become to get the lifecycle events, right? That's what the need of interfaces in Angular. That's why I have covered all these things. Okay, this is about what we can say this thing. Now let me remove this, because or let's keep it. I was about to use the sound listener and sound class, but more understandable class I have used, that is nothing but the animal. Okay, now there is something called as generic classes in the TypeScript. So here I can say generics.ts. Generics. Now what do you mean by generics? Let me tell you. What do you mean by generics? Let me tell you. Let's have one array const mobiles is equals to, see, mobiles is an array of strings. S is small, sorry. Array of what? Strings. And you can say new array. This is called as generic. So this string can be animal, this string can be integer, this string can be anything. This string can be absolutely anything. Okay, S should be small, sorry. If you can see, const mobiles is equals to array of string, not is equals to, mobiles is of type array of strings. Mobiles is of type array of string, means mobile is a variable which will hold the multiple strings, right? This thing is called as, between the less than sign and greater than sign, you write the type. So you are saying that mobiles is that type of array which hold the strings. Well, this can be integer, this can be integer, sorry, not int, number. So you need to have a number here. This can be any class, like we have created animal. This can be any class like animal. Now it is giving you error. See, I have imported one plugin which will import the animal from the animal like this. Const mobiles is array of animal is equals to new animal. That is also possible, right? Now if you want to push the data mobiles dot, you can say push. This is JavaScript method, and see you need to push object of what? Animal. Now what object of animal is consisting of? Just sorry, if you go to the object of animal is consisting of okay, like is equals like colon 1, and you need to provide, well, this is the way bigger object. So in this case let me remove that and make it string, but that is also possible, we can do that. So you just need to go on adding the strings. Either you use single quote or you use double quote. You can say tiger, go on pushing tiger, then what's that? Any animal, monkey, then goons, then what's the animal? Cat, like that, and like that. Okay, so const mobiles is an array, and into that array you are pushing. In the same way you can put number over here or anything, right? So generics is of this type, means any variable you can assign it. So you will see this thing many times in Angular. We are going to define the types, or we are going to pass the generic type. This type can be anything, remember that. Presently it is a string, that can be animal, that can be car, or anything, and the particular object you need to pass over here. Okay, so this is about what generic that we need. Now before starting anything, I would like to jump to one new chapter called as ES6.js. I am saving it what? ES6 features. Required features we will see, ES6 features.js. Now if you see, remember that we are in a JS, there are no types. On the last session we have seen the TypeScript class is going to be compiled and it will become the JS. The TypeScript will get compiled and it will become what? JS. Or before that, let me push this much code. You can say TypeScript Interfaces, export and import. This we have seen so far, and the generics. This we have seen so far. I'll push the code. Kindly go through the code in 5 minutes, then we will start next thing. Okay. I have pushed the code. Can you please check it? Just go to the GitHub. And see here. And see here, code has been pushed. Please check it once. Then we will start with the ES6 features. Okay. I am pausing the recording. How many of you have seen the recording of the last lecture? Hello? Hello? No one else? So I'm uploading recordings on the YouTube channel, right? Just subscribe the channel and you get the notifications. This is the channel. I think I have shared the link on the last lecture, right? Yeah, this one. This is the channel. Here I'm uploading all the recordings, right? So I'm publishing these recordings, right? So straight away you can subscribe so that you can get the notifications as I update the videos. Okay, fine. So this is about that. Now let's start with the ES6 features. Let's start about ES6 features. Well, what are these features now? ES6 features. See, it is a JS. JS never knows the types. Types are in a TypeScript. Types are in what? TypeScript. Okay. Now what is a ES6 now? The advanced version of a JavaScript. ES5 was there, now it is a ES6. ES7 is also there. But ES6 we will see. ES6 has came with the built-in classes. Means in a ES5 we were uses a function as a class, but ES6 has given you class keyword, right? ES6 has given you what? Class keyword. Here you can say class car. You can do something like this. This is one of the feature. Now if you want to write a constructor, constructor is a keyword, same is in the TypeScript, right? But in the TypeScript, if you go to the animal.ts, we define like this. In ES6 we define the fields at the class level, but in a JS or ES6 we define fields, sorry, in a TS we define fields at the this part or this level, class level. In a ES6 you need to do something like this dot name is equals to something like this, right? And if you create object, say let cr is equals to new car, you can access that cr dot name. Can you see something like this? This is how it will work in the ES6. If you are working on the backend frameworks, right, and if you want to apply the ES6 over there, you can use this. But I'll recommend that if you know TypeScript, just jump to the TypeScript, because TypeScript is advanced version of the ES6 also, right? TypeScript is advanced version of the ES6 also. And why I have taken the ES6 as a last chapter in the introduction of the or the basics or the brush ups of the TS, because straight away we are not going to use it in the Angular, right? But it is good that you should know all these things. That's why I'm taking all these efforts. Then there are no types. Remember that this is a JS, not a TS. There are no types in the ES6. Then ES6 has started something called as this let. Earlier it was what? Var. Now see, let number is equals to 10. Let number is equals to, sorry, let's have var number is equals to 10. Here you can say if true var number is equals to 20, and if I write console dot log, you can say 20, sorry, console dot log. Can you tell me what would be the output of this much code? What would be the output of this much code? Can you please tell me? What is the output of this much code?
20.
20 would be the output? Sure.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Anyone other? How many of you think the answer is 10? Okay. The 20 answer is correct. right? Let us run the project. So I have already installed the node on my machine. See, node is a interpreter outside the browser, means you can interpret JS outside the browser by means of node, right? Day 3. Presently you don't need to install node on your machine. I'll explicitly tell you when you need to install the node, but presently you don't need it. Just to run this code I am showing you. See, node ES6 features.js. Hit the code. Can you see answer is 20, which means that with the var, technically answer should be 10, right? Because this is inside the scope, but still this var num is overriding this value. This shouldn't happen. It will create problems, right? While you write the what you can say bigger codes or many lines of code. And by considering this, so var num is equals to 10. If true, var num is equals to 20, console.log num. And answer is what? 20. By considering this, JS people has changed this and created something like that, let. Now see, here I will go and make a let. And now you try to run the code. Answer would be 10. If you see ES6 features, answer is 20. Node ES6 features JS, answer is 10. You just have changed var to what? Let. This is the use of let. Remember that. If you want to imply the scoping, let needs to be there. If you want to imply what? Scoping, let needs to be there. Okay. So this is about let. So one more, we want this feature, and that's why we have discussed about this. So we discussed the class, and let is applicable in the TS also. Remember that TypeScript is a superset of JS. Whatever you can do in a JS, all that things are possible in a TS with additional things of the TS. So when you use the TS, you get JS features and TS features together. Okay, so this is about what you can say scoping, and hence from now when you declare the variable, you will use either const or let, not var straight away, right? If ES6 has been supported, if your project has ES6 support, then straight away you can use let. Okay, then another thing. Now consider that there is a function. You can say OK is the name of the function, right? OK is the name of the function, and OK accepts one variable which is again a function. See this thing, OK accepts a variable which is again what? A callback function or any function. We generally pass it like this. Means functions, or say I want to return a function. ES6 says that functions can be returned by means of lambda or the fat arrows like this, or functions can be represented by means of the fat arrow, right? So if you have a variable fn is equals to, earlier you were writing the function in this way. Earlier you were writing function like this, let fn is equals to what you can say this function. Well, same thing you can write, let fn lambda is equals to arrow like this. Sorry. So this line of code and this line of code is same, there is no difference, but representation is different. But what representation is different? Lambda. So concern is this. Now see, I'll write console.log this inside this, and I'll write console.log this inside this. Okay, let me comment this much first, and let's try to run this, and you will get output for this thing. Let's try to run the project. Let me clear the console. and see node ES6 features. Okay, we haven't called the function. Say fn, you can call it. Right? A function is assigned to the variable. Function, if you see here, function is assigned to the variable. Here if you see, function is assigned to the variable. So if you want to call that function, you can straight away do fn and like this. Now see, node like this. Can you see? This is the fn object. So this is the this object. Sorry, this is the this object that you have printed over here. It's a global object and many things it is getting printed. Right? Remember that people ask the question, what is difference between writing function in this way and writing function in this way? One first difference is the representation is different. Now let me comment out this much part. Can you put all your mics on the mute, please? Yeah, see this. Let fn lm. Now let me call this fn lm. Okay, fn lm, and let me clear this. Now see, I have commented this part, I have commented this part, and we are executing now lambda fn lm. Can you see? Object is empty. So in this case there was some global object. In this case there was some global object. Remember that this would be different. So this inside the normal function, this inside the function is different, and this inside the lambda is pointing to something different. This is pointing to something different. This is pointing to something different. If you are using function, this is different. If you are using lambda, this is different. Right? So if you call this lambda, if you have lambda inside the class, remember that I am repeating myself. If you have written lambda inside the class, it will point to the particular object of class. It will point to the particular object of class. So this is one difference. So, but ES6 has given you the lambda representation, or people call it as fat arrow. You call it as anything, but this term is taken from the mathematics, and in the maths we call it as lambda functions. What we call it as lambda functions. So fn lm and this, and here you have called the function, here you have called the function. Everything is same. Here also you are doing console.log. Here also you are doing console.log. Representation is different. Representation is different. Right? Concept is same, and this would be different. This would be different. Okay? So this thing is given to us by what you can say the ES6 features. Another part. Now see, instead of printing just num like this, so what I'll do, take it here, and here you can say number is, see backticks, see carefully, I have made backticks. Below the escape there is a button, tilde, and that is nothing but this. I'm saying number is, you can say dollar brackets and the num, dollar brackets and the num. So instead of concatenating, so earlier you were doing something like this, sorry, earlier you were doing something like this. I'm removing the backticks now, just the single quotes, here also single quotes. At that time this evaluator operator is not working, or interpolation operator is not working, plus you can say num, and this is memory inefficient, this is memory efficient. Right? Here two objects of string would be getting created, as string is immutable in a JS. Two objects of string would be getting created. Here only one object of string would be getting created, and the evaluation will happen. Right? So class, right? And see, export is also coming from the ES6 only. The export keyword is given to you by means of ES6 only. Remember that. The keyword export is given to you by ES6. Then let, then we understood meaning of let. Then we have studied what you can say interpolation operator, and then the lambda functions, right? Or the fat arrows in the terms of this. Well, fat arrows are as it is available in the TS. I'll show you implementation now. Implementation of fat arrow. See, I'm in the TS. I have switched it now. Now, if you want to print the mobiles dot for each, can you see mobiles dot for each, and it expects a function. You can pass function like this, right? It expects a function where first parameter is the element, this element inside what you can say each element. So each item would be represented by the variable name that you are writing over here, is of type string, is of type what? Sorry, s is small, is of type string. And you can make console.log el. You can do something like this, right? This is a for each loop we are using in JS normally, and we are passing the function like this. Okay, now if you want to run this project, first you need to convert this code to the JS TS6 TSC generics.ts. okay, now JS file would be getting created. If you see here, one generics.js would be getting created. See, generics.json has been created. Now I need to run that JS node generics.js. Can you see monkey, goons and cat? You can see here. This is coming from here. Now instead of passing this function in this way, I can write a lambda version of above mobiles dot for each, and here you can say el arrow console.log el. Can you see above this line and this line is one and same, but it is by means of what? Lambda. This is by means of what? Lambda. Getting that? I'll push the code. If you get any query, please ask me. Say ES6 required features. Features of ES6, and here you can push the code. Okay, I have pushed the code. Please go through the code in 2 to 3 minutes. Then again we can start again over. Okay, I am stopping the presentation, then I am pausing the recording. Hello, do you have any questions? This is about what you can say using the ES6. ES6 is, remember that ES6 is everything. Whatever ES6 can you hear me? Hello, am I audible to all?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible? Okay. Prathamesh, check your sound settings. From my side it's working. Okay, so this is about generics and the ES6 features. Getting that? Generics and what? ES6 features. Okay, so this much things we would be needing, remember that this much things we would be needing in a TypeScript. Okay, so when we go to the Angular, we would be needing these many things. Fine. Now we can start with something called as, we can start with, just a moment. Let me see and refresh. Okay. Now, or now I would like to start with this part, Angular CLI. I would like to start with this part, but if you want me to start tomorrow, we can start tomorrow morning, right? Or if you want me to start now, I can start now also. But Nikhil has said some more people are coming, we can wait, right? Do you have any queries related to this ES6 or TypeScript? If you have, you can ask me. Till then we can work on your queries if you have anything, or if you want me to implement something, we can implement that. But I want
not going to use ES6.
No,
Angular.
no. In Angular, we are not going to use ES6, right? But some of the features, can you see this? Lambda is a feature of ES6. We are going to use let in the Angular. We are going to use what? Let in Angular. We are going to use expressions in the Angular. So that are coming from the ES6. That's why I have explained that. Even the export keyword, creating the class, all these features of ES6. TypeScript is also having, and TypeScript is much more mature than the ES6. That's why we are using TypeScript, right? So I think tomorrow we will start with at 11:30 a.m. Remember that. On the last time also I have told you that we will start the lecture on 11:30 a.m. tomorrow. Okay, 11:30 to 1:30 would be the batch timing. So I can say that 11:30 is the batch timing to 1:30 a.m. p.m. is the batch timing. Remember that, not 12:30, it's 11:30. Okay, so tomorrow in the morning we will start Angular, right? First we will install the CLI, then we will understand the project structure, and then we will try to implement little bit tomorrow. Okay, fine.
Yes, sir.
So shall we end the call? Yeah, so tomorrow morning we will start with the Angular CLI, and actual Angular would be getting started tomorrow. So far we have just made a brush up. Okay, so far we have just made a brush up, nothing new in this, just touching the JS concept and the TS concept, but actual efforts to the Angular will start from tomorrow. Fine, I am stopping the recording.